In this episode, it's a how to install a mechanical oil pressure gauge on Ford Fairmong, or I guess at least 99% one. Welcome to the channel. My name's Gray and Tommy, and this is the Straight Six Van, where I like to focus on budget-minded, relatable, creative builds. A little something I like to call offbeat hot rodding, making the act of hot rodding accessible to you. But anyway, today we're back on Ford Fairmong, and we are attempting to get this danged oil pressure sending unit out. And to give you a quick recap, if you didn't catch the last Car Guy and Six Van show, so last Sunday, or my last Sunday upload, I went and bought a 1/16 socket. That was too big because that's what I saw on somebody else's small block Ford video like this. Then went back later in the week, got a 1-inch. That was still too big. There's still enough play in it. So then I thought, well, surely then it's 15/16 and it has to be a 12-sided socket. So I bought one of those yesterday morning. Come to find out that's too small. So then I was like, well, it's got to be metric, right? So I looked up on my on the old cell phone to figure out what's the closest between 15/16 and an inch there for the metric. That would be 24 millimeters. So late last night, I made it back to Home Depot just before closing time to exchange the 15/16 inch socket. And I'm sitting there comparing that 15/16 to the 24 millimeter deep socket. And I'm like, man, these really don't, you know, I'm kind of putting them together and I'm like, they don't look like they're that much different in size. So I was like, you know what, I'm so done with this that I was like, you better pick up a 25 millimeter just in case. And I'm thinking, you know, 25.4 millimeters is an inch, and I'm like, just do it, man. So I do, and it turns out it was 25 millimeter socket. So let's try getting this thing off once and for all. As I was hand loosening the oil pressure sending unit, it would fall in my catch pan, drip pan, whatever you want to call it. But it is out now, and looks like the old Teflon tape was holding up pretty well. And I did double check it against the pitch count, or the pitch of the threads on the new hardware, and it is the same, so that's good. Originally I was going to do a T-fitting, so that way I could hook this up on one side and this one up on the other. But for as long as this battle's been taking me just to get this dang thing out, I really have no motivation to make another run to a hardware store or anything like that. So we're just going to go straight up mechanical gauge. And I hate, you know, abandoning wire and just leaving it alone. But again, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm not building this thing for keeps. So I guess we'll do it sort of, I guess it's half-assed that way. But anyway, I need to think through how I want to do this install, which one I want to go in first. I think it's going to be threading this into the engine block first, and then I'll route the tubing and then do the rest of them after, but I'm going to take some pause to think about that. So I think I have the routing figured out for the oil pressure gauge, and we are using, or taking advantage of, the hood latch cable grommet, where we will feed it through the firewall. And then I think I'm going to have just enough to get to the oil pressure gauge, because wouldn't you know, I fell victim to what everybody warns you of with these things, kinking the hose line. As I fed it through right away out of the gate, that happened. And so I'm losing about, oh geez, probably more than I thought even initially, since maybe 6 inches coiled, 8 inches uncoiled. So I'm going to have to cut it there, but I think, and I think I got an extra inch once I stretch it tight all the way, but we'll see. We will see. So just in case this is the first time you're tuning into my channel again, there is a whole series on the gauge pod I built for the ashtray. Okay, so because of the limited space down there where the oil pressure sending unit, or the fitting I'm putting in goes, that replaces the oil pressure sending unit, what I found is this sort of setup. Shallow 9/16. You can see a little bit of the threads are poking up here, and then I'm using like my, I guess this is about a 6.5 or 6 inch extension. But anyway, we can get in there and get it started to thread in. Cut the tube off right past that crimp. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tight, but so what I'm gonna attempt to do is you feed this guy on the tube first, and then within it is this little nipple, which is probably pretty hard to see, and I'm going to then screw that onto the other fitting first in hopes that the nipple like just kind of compression fits to this and then back it off, so then I can get the adapter fitting on that one, and then hopefully we can tighten it from there. But I'm not sure this is the best way to do it, but we're gonna give that a shot. Okay, so today's a little chopped up because I'm also smoking some ribs in the backyard, but got the fitting on, it's nice and tight, so I feel good about it. I'm actually now going to, like I mentioned, take it back apart so I can get this one down there. It is going to be just long enough, but it's going to be tight. I did end up measuring that excess I cut off, and it's right about 1 foot that I lost. So anyway, let's get to do. For the adapter fitting, I found this setup to be the best. When I was doing the first fitting, you know, I hand tightened it in with this extension, but this was just happened to be just long enough to like barely clear the oil filter for a couple turns, and then, you know, it was gonna start being a little off-centered. So anyway, I found at all times it was best when the ratchet was pointed downward toward the ground. But anyway, just a little insider tip for this specific car, a 78 Ford Fairmong. So I don't think I had shown you yet the ferrule, I believe that's how you say it, but here it is. And yeah, partially why I put the fitting together first and then took it apart, just so it can stay kind of compression fit on there like this right now. It's gonna make it a little easier for me to feed it in place, and then we will tighten up the last fitting and we should be good, hopefully, with no leaks. We will find that out, but yeah, it's like I said, it's gonna be fairly tight. I mean, there's a little bit of slack, but I gotta feed that in there, and it's very tight in there. Even if I could get a camera in there and show you, it would be painful to watch. So anyway, we'll get this hooked up. Okay, so I think I'm gonna stop for today, and I'm not done. All right, and I'll tell you why. Well, first off, I did get the compression fitting hand tightened on the adapter fitting, and so we're good to go there. However, I also need to now do some kind of wire or tubing management. Obviously, since we lost that extra foot, I'll be burning this thing up on the exhaust manifold if I don't. But I'm pulling up right now just because I can't get this thing tightened the way I like to with my current 3/8 inch wrench. Based on where I gotta get in there, get to it, I'm just running out of length. So I need to buy some extra length gear wrenches, which thankfully old Rust Belt Mechanic did a kind of Weekend Warrior tool review on some gear wrench longer range. So I may have to consider that. But the last thing, the other reason why I'm holding up, it's a little after 3. Let's see, it is 3:30, 3:35 actually, and I try not to be out here much later than like 4:30, just so I give myself time to edit these things up and be able to spend time with the wife at the end of the night. Now, she's actually doing some homework for the old grad school right now, so that wouldn't have been a huge problem. But to hit that 8:30 upload time like I like to on Sundays, I usually gotta quit. And the other thing is those ribs I was telling you about. I'm at this like crossroads of I just can't look after these two things, and so I have to pick whether I want this to turn out right or whether I want the ribs to turn out right, and I want the ribs to turn out right. So I'm not going to go make a emergency run for a new tool today. I'll just get that either through Amazon or pick that up during the week, and we'll get that tightened up, check it for leaks, whatever night of the week that ends up being. That's going to do it for this episode. Guys, like, comment, or subscribe. I don't care which one you do, just do one of them. If you want a straight 6-fan Pistons tee, link in the description below to my Spreadshirt store. Don't forget the Car Guy and 6-fan show. Unfortunately, again, I cannot make it this week. I've got another work thing going on this Thursday. But remember, you can, between myself and Old Car Auto Guy, between our two channels, as long as you're following us, you will be sure you catch that show week in and week out as we switch off every other week, or which it happens to be on Jason's channel this week, or should this work thing happen to me and I was supposed to host it, he would host it on his channel in that circumstance as well. So anyway, you're not going to miss the show one way or the other as long as you're following both of our channels. That's going to do it for this episode, and until next time, peace out.